So, I'm a really big fan of the Gundam Versus series. In my opinion, it sets a bar for 3D arena fighters that has not been met by any other game ever. Period. If you're also a fan of the series, you know one of the biggest problems we face is that we just don't see modern versions of the game being released really outside of arcades in Japan, making them really inaccessible to most parts of the world. If you're interested in why that is, it has a lot to do with sort of the declining interest in arcades in Japan. I don't live in Japan, so I don't have a first-hand account of this, but I'm just going to regurgitate some of the stuff that I understand. Basically, as playing fighting games online has gotten a lot better over the years, and as rhythm game peripherals have become a lot cheaper and playing rhythm games at home has become a lot more accessible, the necessity of going out to an arcade to physically play games has waned a lot. And as the interest in rhythm games and fighting games has sort of declined over the years, that space has sort of been not pushed out, but like replaced with skill games, things like claw machines, things that are just very, very accessible to anybody, not even people that play games. And the one true arcade game that has really stood the test of time and really kept people coming back and into the arcades is the Gundam Versus series for a number of reasons. One, Gundam is just a massive IP in Japan. It's huge. Hard to understate that. Another part is that it is its own genre. Like there isn't another game that plays anything like this at all. Like I said earlier, there has not been another arena fighter that even comes close. It's a blowout. It's crazy. And the third thing is the exclusivity. It doesn't get released outside of the arcades. We were fortunate enough back in, I believe it was 2016, to receive Mobile Suit Gundam Extreme versus Maxi Boost On. And Maxi Boost On is, to its credit, a great version of the game. But frankly, we're coming up on almost a decade of no updates for anybody outside of Japan. And that really sucks. But Bandai doesn't really have an incentive to release a version of this game outside of arcades because if you think about it, like the arcade cabinets cost a ton of money. So if you own an arcade in Japan, you're investing tens of thousands of dollars to get like 16 of these cabs plus an LM for actually hosting all of this stuff. It's like 17 different machines. It's a lot of money. And you need that money to pay dividends. You need people to be coming in and playing them constantly to be able to make a return on that investment. And if suddenly Bandai were to release a game, let's say even if they just released it exclusively stateside and in Europe, right? Places outside of that region so that people were still incentivized to go to arcades and stuff, right? Just the risk of their market using a VPN to access our servers and play for effectively free or for a one-time fee at home, it basically threatens an entire industry. Like so many arcades could potentially close down. Again, this is my understanding and interpretation, right? If you live in the region, please feel free to correct me. So what I have thought for a while now is that if Bandai has no incentive to bring this game outside of this region, and if it is literally a game that is keeping an industry alive, an industry that I like, I have some favoritism. I do like arcades, so I would like them to stay open and alive. I feel like the only way to improve the situation is just to have more people making games like it so that, if Gundam vs. Gundam can't come out on Steam, maybe something else could. Right. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I found out about Star Wars. It is a Gundam versus Gundam-like game that is on Steam right now. This wasn't even on my radar, so it actually came out around this time, like a month ago, and I just had no idea that it released. And the reason I had no idea that it released is because it's pretty much an exclusively Chinese game. The language is only in Chinese, and the server is only in Chinese. And if you look through the game a little bit, like I said, it's a Gundam versus Gundam style game. But it is a mobile game that has the mechs replaced with anime waifus that you unlock via a gacha system, right? Now, despite living in not just another time zone, but another timeline, I've put like 6-7 hours in it just because I love this genre so much. And I gotta tell you, what's here is honestly really impressive. Me and my friend that duo queued in it a little bit, we both commented to one another that we couldn't even imagine playing this game on a phone. Like, there's so much going on, there are so many different inputs, and it's so demanding that, like, I have no idea how the fuck you're supposed to play this game on a phone. It feels like a full-fledged game. So that's really positive. And me personally, I'm mentally ill. So I love gacha systems. I love gambling money on virtual characters. There's nothing I would love to spend my money on more than an anime character. And this is a Gundam style game, right? The prospect of spending hundreds of dollars on my favorite Gundam suit. You know, I could be like pickpocketing like little old nannies and stuff. Like this is devastating to me and the economy of me. It's bad. It's really bad. The only downside really is that the server is in China and I can't play it at all. People seem to agree because the reviews on the game are mixed. And if I go through all of the different reviews, not just the reviews that are here in English, but also translating some of the reviews from other languages and also looking through the threads and the forums and stuff like that, it feels like the most common complaint is just that people can't play it. There are obviously North American people that are like, man, this game is really cool, but it's got like 250 ms at least, and I just can't play it and I can't read anything, so I gotta bounce for now. But I've also translated comments from like the Japanese community where they're like, we're the only landmass that has this game and is familiar with this. It's really weird that you would leave us out of the marketing. Like, why would you not plan to have this market included? It doesn't really make any sense. Obviously, there are people in China that have gotten access to Gundam Versus machines, and obviously there's a market for it there. But Japan really is the primary market for this type of thing, so it's very interesting that they did get left out. Obviously, regions in like Southeast Asia are able to use VPNs to connect and play, and they can get like decent signals. But again, really the biggest complaint, and even some people in China as well, have been saying like, man, the latency is just really not great. So I've gotten replies from the devs and I've seen replies from the devs where they've said, you know, like, hey, we're just a small studio that's based out of China, but we are, you know, we've seen all of the comments. We're interested in bringing this game to other regions. So sort of stand by for additional details. So I'm very hopeful. I think realistically, I think it's very likely that the Japanese region would get support and attention first, just because there's so much more money to be made there, I think. But there is a possibility that this game is available to everybody at some point. So very hopeful. If you want to try out the game because you're insane like me, or maybe you just live a little bit closer to the region, you can actually play it. I have two recommendations. The first is the VPN I was able to get to work was XBack. Shout out to Minato on YouTube for calling this one out. I couldn't get any other VPN to actually work with the game, but xback.io is the website for it. Was able to get me to connect, and that did reduce my ping by about 60 ms, but that's just going from 300 to 240. Like it's not even considerable. The other recommendation I have is that there is a training mode, Future Loops. Can you put on the screen the training mode and how you navigate to it? When you're in the training mode, you have 30 ms because you're just playing locally. So you're able to get a feel for like what the game actually feels like without lag, what the suits actually do, and so on and so forth. I think the game feels really crisp and really satisfying there. So definitely worth checking out if you just want to fiddle around with it. But yeah, I feel like that's most of what I have to say about this. If this game does come out in North America, then I apologize in advance, but like I have to talk about it. Like I really do like Gundam Versus way too much to let a new release like this not get at least a little bit of attention from me, right? Like I said, this could be lethal. I'll catch you all on the next one, all right? Peace.